Great. All right. Thank you for joining us today for Centered Staying Grounded in Uncertain Times with Kim Perone. This is our second session with Kim this month, and we are hopeful that we'll be able to continue with some sessions in 2026, and we'll definitely keep you all posted on that. We're really happy to bring you this training with support from AHI's Boost program as part of their Mother Cabrini Health Foundation funding. As you see, today's training is being recorded, and we're hoping to add a page to our website, which will include links to last week's training and today's training as well. It may take a week or so for us to be able to do that on our website. We're figuring things out as we speak. But as soon as information is on the website, we'll be sure to send that link so that you can access last week's and this week's training. We do appreciate your feedback for today's session, and we will be sending an evaluation. I'll put the evaluation link in the chat near the end of the training, and then I'll also send an email later this afternoon that has the same link. If you'd like CECs for today's event, it is required, and CECs have been approved for social work, licensed mental health counseling, PT, OT, and speech language pathology. And then without further ado, I'm going to toss it off to Kim to lead today's session. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you everyone for taking the time to be here today, especially if you did last week's and now moving forward. I hope this to be that part two or additional information. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today, almost all of it, are actual exercises to help you stay grounded. As my tagline is find your center, it's that place inside of yourself of that sense of groundedness despite things that are going on around you. We know in the world, and if you were part of last week's presentation, the VUCA times, as I mentioned, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. But we have these beautiful, amazing lives, and we don't want all of that outside stimuli, whatever it is, to be pulling us off our sense of groundedness and making us feel overly stressed, sponges for everyone else's energy, as I'm sure you can relate to. So this second part is full of exercises, and I was excited when we talked about having this session. Of course, I have to give little description to Kelly. And so this is me thinking, yes, centered, how to stay grounded in uncertain times. And if you saw the description, it sounds like I have all the answers here, doesn't it? In maintaining a fulfilling and productive life, this is challenging, but with empowering practices and perspectives, we can stay grounded and experience well-being. And of course, that is my hope for you and what I hope to share with you. And it does make me sound like I have all the answers. And what I really want to share with you this was me at the beginning of the year. I mean, this absolutely was an overwhelming time for coaches, for my peers in the industry. Companies had been, become paralyzed, weren't sure what was going on with their budgets. There was so much. I lost 3 organizational clients due to those factors, huge budget cuts. And so, the bug-eyed, completely panicked feeling. And I want you to know that all of these exercises are things that I actually use myself. And I'm not feeling quite like this bug-eyed bird now, which is a great thing. I feel much more grounded and centered and optimistic about 2026. So not to spend too much time on data before we get to the exercises, but I wanted to share an update, especially if you saw addressing burnout with some of the statistics that I shared. Here is a look, a very more up to the moment look to 2024, reflecting on employee well-being and global employee well-being. So the measure of how employees experience their lives include life evaluation, daily negative emotions, and burnout, and how strongly employees believe their organization cares about their well-being. So it looks like, and if you see, it's been consistent over the last decade or more, in the same vein. I think our modern times have caused us to feel maybe only a third of people saying that they feel like they're thriving, where 58% are struggling, 9% are suffering. So that's 67% struggling, suffering. And I know that we see it. And even if you're here and you feel like you're thriving, you have colleagues, you have people around you in your lives that are struggling and suffering. And I certainly see a lot of that from my work in organizations with employees as a coaching form of employee assistance, where employees can just reach out to me. So just keeping this in mind, these exercises aren't just grounding you in the moment, but they will help put you and help your energy, your mindset, put you more in that third if you don't feel like you are already of thriving. And that's what I want for you. Because the truth is, there is a lot of pain and suffering in the world, and we do care and we're empathetic. And this is what can throw us off. We may be thriving, but we love people that might be struggling and or our patients, clients, people we work with, people who are our customers, are suffering and we're feeling that energy. But the hope here is that, you see this kind of superhero shield look here. Grounding ourselves is the best defense. And I truly feel like this will lead to those numbers feeling more like thriving, that people will feel more of a sense of agency on how they experience the world and the suffering in the world around them. And I have to say, reflecting on my own experience and telling you how this year had been with that slow start, the loss of some business, a lot of fear and suffering, talking to a lot of people going through difficult times, it really did send my energy, diffused it and deflated it. And I had to work with my own coach on how to ground myself better and not be that sponge that just soaks up that energy. And if you are an empath, you might very well relate to the fact that, you could be sitting with a friend, a relative, a colleague, and over time, if people are sharing their stories with you, you start to feel less energized. It does take your battery down, and maybe you're not conscious of it, and then you start feeling very deflated. So another reason, like, I hope that these slides are an absolute shield for you. Not that we want to be isolated, it's a permeable shield, but not that we want to be isolated, but just a little protective of our own energy. The very first, and I know that last week in addressing burnout, I talked about the brain's negativity bias and how we should see our thoughts, not be our thoughts. And I thought, let me give you a slide that helps do that exercise as an exercise a little bit better. Okay. Here are our thoughts. Think of them like clouds. They're coming, they're going. The brain is doing what it's meant to do. Okay. And you are not those thoughts. More than that, you're just the person experiencing those thoughts, like watching the clouds go by. And here's the real thing to keep in mind. I love this quote from Joseph Goldstein. He is a meditation teacher to meditation teachers and an author and speaker and very well respected in the field. And his quote, "Our thoughts are a little something more than nothing." That puts it into perspective. Our thoughts can feel like they're everything. That's me. That voice in my head is who I am. And I'm keeping myself company up here, and my voice is chattering away and having these thoughts. We are so much more than that. And our thoughts are a little something more than nothing. It's our brain doing what it's doing. And literally, if I woke up this morning and felt like, oh, I'm not feeling 100%, I don't think I have the energy to do the webinars I have to do today.
Sure.
it doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it true. It's just a little something more than nothing that I had that thought. I really cannot judge my day by how I feel at 6:30 in the morning because I'm not a morning person. So I don't know if you're thinking of some thoughts that you actually know are not true that you have on a normal basis, or that there's maybe a nugget of truth, not completely true. I want you to feel just like this picture in an exercise that you can kind of push some thoughts away. You can understand that you are the person experiencing those thoughts. They're not as important as we think they are. To build on that, to take it to the next level, in the same sense, our brain is not just having thoughts, but it's pulling a bunch of thoughts together to make up a story. And we live in these stories, and it's the way we're seeing life. We think in stories, and that's why we enjoy them too. We enjoy books and movies and stories that it with characters and all of that, because that is how our brains perceive life. And since we think in stories, when we're feeling very off center, when we're feeling extremely overwhelmed, off center, ungrounded, chaotic, confused, we can think not just about those thoughts, but really sit down, maybe even with a journal, and say, what's the story? What is the story I'm feeling right now? And think, what is another story or another way to look at it? And an example that came to me about, what is my story and what I worked with my own coach on is, with a chaotic year, with loss of business, but then combined with some personal things in my personal life, and aging parents and my worries about them. My story was, I have to do this and I have to do that, and it's on me to do this and it's on me to do that. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that, where the story really becomes, I have to do this and I have to do everything, and pushing myself and feeling depleted and feeling worried and anxious. And really, there's always another perspective. So when I sat down to go, wait, I don't really like the way I feel. And it's okay to say, like, if you don't feel good, coaching tip number one that I want to give you is, like, you should feel good. So reflect on what it is that makes you not feel good. What was another story for me was equally true. Equally true. I'm blessed to still have my parents in my life. A lot of my friends don't. I'm worried and anxious. I could see that thought and not be that thought. Say, okay, I'm doing a little too much anticipating down the road. It's causing me to be a little worried, causing me to feel like I have a lot on my plate, a lot on my shoulders. When I recognized it, I was able to step back from that a little bit and find a more empowering story that was just as true. But there was a story that was causing me more stress. And then there was a story that was much more loving. And this is a tool for you as well. What is a more loving story around what is a very challenging story when you start to feel like not so good, not so good, not so grounded? Another exercise that I want you to have in your toolkit, a tool in your toolkit, is the life wheel. And this is something that I talk about in other webinars, but this is a tool at any time to step back and look at the big picture, because sometimes our stress and our chaos or our confusion is coming from being really in tight on something. Like if I was in too tight on my career and what 2025 meant to the last decade of my work and having it feel deflating, back up and look at the well-being wheel, right? This life wheel, because more often than not, that gives you a sense of grounding. Wow, I have a lot of good in my life. and this little area kind of just took a drop. Now, at the same time, sometimes a few areas might be getting hit, and that might be causing confusion, chaos in your life, a lot of stress in your life. That's okay. It's just a building point. When you begin to recognize it, you can build resilience because that you can build from there. If I needed to do specific things, instead of just feeling all stressed out and not having that focused, I could zoom in on, well, how do I build new business? I'm not going to spend a lot of time being too sad about companies that may have had to cut their budgets. I feel bad for them. I don't want to spend too long feeling bad about myself. So what do I do? What are the actual action steps? And you can use this wheel to do that as well, making some notes. What are just a couple of clear steps? When you find clarity, you reduce your stress. Here's a little somatic exercise. And the picture doesn't totally do it justice, although doing, like tapping here on your arms, the way the picture shows, would do the same thing and calm the nervous system. It's, something, it's not necessarily a brain thing. It's a nervous system thing. The butterfly hug. So this getting into your body, out of your thoughts, our thoughts are usually where the stress comes from. So this tapping calms the nervous system, activates the relaxation response, or at least brings you into the present moment if you think about it mindfully as well, if you were to do this. And the actual butterfly hug is I always have to really think about this when I do this to get my hands in the right spot, but putting your hands right in front of you, palms facing your face, sliding your hands to like a butterfly, locking your thumbs, and right around your clavicle, like this collarbone area, tap and alternate tapping. This butterfly hug, as they call it in somatic practices, does calm the nervous system. So in a pinch, if you're feeling anxious, stressed, overwhelmed, doing this exercise will calm your nervous system. And as you can see, you could do it for a minute. It could be a 1 minute exercise that brings you right into the present moment, activates your relaxation response, and you're ready to go forward with a clearer mind, or at least your body being in your high functioning brain. If we get to fight or flight on anything, we drop into our cave brain, and that is not where we do good thinking. Another exercise for you to think about is energy, your energy just in general, how you're showing up, the energy you're sitting with, the energy you're bringing with you anywhere. I want you to think about, how do you build energy when it's been depleted? And how do you expel energy when you've absorbed it? So earlier, I just talked about being that sponge and kind of picking up energy all through the day with people you may be talking to or the environment that you're in. And it's not necessarily good energy. You may have expended a lot of energy serving other people in your life. How do you expel that energy? What practice do you have? And I chose this image of jumping because I found, in a very real way, I started to walk on my treadmill and I found my brain started working better this year. So that physical movement, or expelling the energy of a number of client sessions that I was doing on a regular basis, was building energy with the endorphins, but it was actually also maybe expelling some negative energy. It was like clearing my energy. So it could come in a lot of forms. I do think that physical movement is important because we're in our heads a lot. And I know some of you are probably even thinking, oh yes, I have that boxing class, or I have this arts and crafts, and I get so inspired and it takes everything else away. It clears my energy. But definitely want you to think about what it is for you. Self-compassion. This could even be something that you cut out and post somewhere. We forget, especially caregivers, especially people that serve others as part of their industry, their career. Self-compassion is alleviating your own suffering. So you spend a lot of time alleviating other people's suffering. Turn towards yourself. And when you feel stressed and overwhelmed, understand that you can turn to your own self with kindness, not judgment. And as Kristen Neff says here, when it comes to self-compassion, when I give myself permission to rest or to say no and experience whatever I'm feeling, I reconnect with my own humanity. And that in turn allows me to show up more fully for those I love. So we cannot give from an empty vessel. We cannot give properly our energy if we are depleting our own energy with the negative inner critic, the judgment, more, I should do more, I should do more, which is common. And the brain and those thoughts, they sometimes read stressful situations, and even without us recognizing it, the mind will turn against ourselves. Like, I should be doing more. I should be doing more. The worse we feel, the more that voice in our thoughts kind of wants to say, it's our fault. So it's okay to give yourself those loving words that Kristen Neff wrote. That's her own mantra for difficult times. I apologize that this is a very full slide, but when you look at them, the notes later, this is a whole exercise. So this is where Kristen Neff brings it a little bit more into a specific practice. So this is from her website, selfcompassion.org. Really, instead of just pushing and pushing and pushing through and plowing through our stress, which is common, and the brain says you don't have time for anything else, just do what you have to do, to actually recognize this is a moment of suffering. Like she even mentions, like, this is hurt, ouch, this is stress, this is a moment, like recognizing it consciously that you are going through something difficult. And that could be momentarily something difficult or something big that's going on in your life. Useful for both. The second step is to recognize that suffering is a part of life. We're all in this crazy life, this messy human experience together, and that's called common humanity. So suffering is a part of life, or thinking, okay, other people feel this way, I'm not alone, we all struggle in our lives, can take your stress level down a little bit. Now you're in the recognition, you're in the self-compassion. You're able to be resilient, putting your hands over your heart, feeling the warmth of your hands. Again, that's somatic, like the butterfly hug. Calming the body's nervous system. Step 3 is actually talking to ourselves in that kind way. You might say, what do I need to hear right now to express kindness to myself? And we can give ourselves that. And here's some examples. May I give myself the compassion I need? May I learn to accept myself as I am? Or may I forgive myself? May I be strong? May I be patient? This can be used anytime. This is a 3-step process. If you're in need of self-compassion, or I shouldn't even say it that way, because often we don't even realize if we feel awful, we need this. That's the indication. If you feel awful emotionally, there's a moment you can take a break and do this exercise. This graphic is a nice self-compassion 5-step as you see there, and then a QR code for Kristen Neff's website, the other website where she and Chris Germer have more mindful self-compassion tools. So I wanted this to be as you see their graphic there, this pocket companion. And these 5 sayings can be right at the ready. That just explains what I just explained, but so you have it at the ready. And I would add to it number 6, often you might be feeling the stress and suffering of people around you. And even if you are serving the suffering as a caregiving professional, number 6 that I would add here to the 5 self-compassion pieces is if you didn't create the situation, right? To a reminder to ourselves as we're feeling the stress and the energy of suffering is that you are an important piece of helpfulness, but that you did not create the situation, the difficult situation that you're witnessing, experiencing, or serving. Another mindful grounding technique, again, to just get right into the moment, into yourself, away from all of the chaos around you, is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's 5 things you see, 4 things you touch. It's engaging the senses. 3 things that you hear, 2 things you taste, 1 thing you smell. Now, if you're like me, I forget which one's the 5 things, which one's the 4 things, and then that trips me up. I really moved to just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Just one of each, or one of whatever I can remember in the moment off the top of my head. Noticing something that I see wherever I am, and because this is quiet, and you could do it even if you were in the middle of a crowd. 1 thing you see, 1 thing you touch, 1 thing, maybe taste, smell. It's like having a mint and really paying attention to it. You're picking your attention up and putting it on literal, neutral things, and that can give you a sense of groundedness. And I added this picture of a water glass because of one of the most profound examples of this in my life happened many years ago before I was a coach, going through a very difficult point when I was 35, point in my life of a loss. And I was on a panel discussion. So it was related to public speaking. And my energy was so drained by my anxious thinking, by my mind being all over the place, in a very worried place. And I even had a colleague say, "Do I need to get you out of here? Like, you don't have to do this." Like, they could see I was close to a panic attack. And of course, I said, "No, I'm fine. I'll be fine. I'll be fine." And almost instinctively, because I did not know anything about mindfulness or grounding exercises at the time, but when I was on the dais and getting ready and people were filling the room, imagine it's like a hotel ballroom and all the attendees are coming in, and I'm at the dais with the other panelists, the glass of water that was on the table with the sweat from the ice, the condensation on the outside of the glass, I held it and I focused on it, and I could feel how it was cold. And I was looking at it and really putting my attention on it. And I felt my body relax. And by the time everything started, I could speak. And all I can say is that it must have been instinctual to do that. It worked like a charm. So that's another way to realize how touching something, paying attention to something in your vicinity can be very grounding. And as we come away from our thoughts, that's what's causing the overwhelm. So if you come into the present moment, you can begin again with whatever thoughts help you move forward. Another grounding technique is box breathing, and some of you may be familiar with this already. It's the inhale for 4 seconds, hold, exhaling for 4 seconds, then pausing for 4 seconds. And it's funny because I find myself holding my breath all the time from stress. If you've ever noticed your shallow breathing, it's just what happens if we get stressed or very busy. But when I do this, it seems long. So you can actually feel the physical feeling. So if you don't mind doing this with me for a second or two, is to go inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. So doing this for a few rounds wouldn't take very long. And again, it has that calming the nervous system feeling to it, activating the body's relaxation response, which tells the brain we're okay, we're not in danger. So simple, but not easy to remember in the moment sometimes. Another in your toolkit, definitely for grounding and to stay centered, is the circle of control. And this graphic is so useful and it's so simple. Especially if we're experiencing overwhelm, what do you control? What do you influence? And what is a concern? I control me. I influence clients, family members. I'm concerned about family members, maybe my aging family members. I have a lot of concerns, concern about the world, concern about certain groups, people in my life, people I don't know, concern about others that are suffering, even people I don't know. This is a great example. It can print it off, write some notes, right? You can even just write it in the moment to see what you actually have control of. It can alleviate the suffering you feel of the everything all at once, all your switches being on, all the concern that you have for people in your life, bringing it down to what is actually in my control. Recognizing what I influence, recognizing what I'm concerned about, but come back to what can I do now? And usually that's yourself, right? Grounding yourself is usually the best thing to go forward with. This is similar from addressing burnout, but worth repeating is along the same way. Good emotional hygiene is feeling your feelings, get articulate. It can take 2 minutes. That can ground you. If you're feeling anxious, worried, frustrated, afraid, feel that feeling, recognize it. It's probably coming from a very real place. We have feelings for a reason. But if you get articulate just for you, recognizing how you feel, that's a form of self-compassion too. And then you felt it instead of pushing it down until it accumulates and it explodes. And this is not to say that it's only when we're in moments where it's not good. It's all those negative red zone feelings. If you're in a happy moment, feel it fully, seep in it. If you're feeling focused and relaxed and content and happy, do that too. Let yourself feel that. And whereas the brain is like, okay, that's good, whatever, focus on the bad. The brain just wants to kind of do that and be useful for you in that way for you. So just a note, like feel the feelings, but know that you are the person experiencing the feelings, just like the thoughts. This is a stress reduction tool, and I'm going to explain it, run through it, and I hope that this will be very useful for you. It can take you from a stressed brain state of 5, really high stress, like off the Richter scale, down 1 or 2 steps. Not more, but usually 1 or 2 steps, and it helps open neural pathways. And like the life wheel and like some of the other exercises, it kind of brings you back to what's real in life, brings you back to the big picture. Because as you can see here, it also it has the emotions. So this is a broader emotional exercise than maybe just in the moment saying, "Oh, I feel angry, but of course I do, and I understand that that's how I feel right now." This is taking it one step deeper as an exercise to say, "I feel angry that," and then whatever you're angry about, and you might have 10 angries in that moment. Let's say you are a brain state 5, and that's super, super stressed, as opposed to one, which is content, or I'm sorry, joy. One is joy, two is contentment, three is normal stress. But it's like that somewhat stressed. I got to get up, I got to go to work, I got to do this, I got to do that. Four is very stressed, five is off the Richter scale. So running through this very consciously, I'm angry that, be angry, and until you feel emptied out of that emotion. I feel sad that, until you're emptied out of whatever's popping in your mind about that. I feel afraid that. Same there. I feel guilty that. You might not have a guilty, but if it's in there, let's get it out. Get it out to yourself. Again, this is not to someone else. This is you recognizing and reflecting on how you feel. If you are a brain state 5, super stressed, the grind in right here in the middle is, what is my unrealistic expectation? What is a more realistic expectation? So here, and one of my favorite examples for this is my son, when he was a teenager. He's 29 now, but when he was a teenager, found out he lied to me about something kind of big. And I had all kinds of, just felt horrible, like felt like a horrible mother. I was so angry, I felt sad, all these things. So when I felt that and I got to what is my unrealistic expectation, and you probably already know if you've had kids, where I'm going with this is, well, my unrealistic expectation, I had to admit, was that my teenager would never lie to me, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that is a normal thing. What is a more realistic expectation? That this is a teachable moment, that I'm glad we had a chance to talk about this. Probably a really good thing to go through this example, as much as I didn't like that. And then you can move forward to, but I feel grateful that we had a good conversation. I feel happy that he seemed really sorry and very, very regretful of his actions. I feel secure that, I feel proud that, and filling in that sentence for you. So again, it can knock your brain state of super stress down one or two levels, and it opens more neural pathways towards calm, the threes, the twos, the ones. And in that really heightened state of anger, stress, overwhelm, just a little note on the bottom here, do not judge yourself and others too harshly. So in my example, to judge myself, I'm the worst mother in the world, judge my kid, he's a psychopath, not, don't judge too harshly yourself or others. Minimize the harm. For that one, I'm always thinking, like, don't send that email, when you're in a really heightened state of stress. And then also know it will pass. So minimize harm, know it will pass. Don't judge yourself or others too harshly. So here, getting closer to the end, and I want to make sure I give you time if you have any questions, but a huge light bulb moment and that I want to share with you, that becomes apparent to me too when I talk about these things a lot, about what's going on in the world and how we feel, and grounding ourselves, and feeling engaged, but feeling good, not isolated. Well, I've just shut myself off from the world, so then I feel more comfortable. The light bulb moment is, this is your life, right? We do not want to let people hijack our emotions, our energy all the time. We need to be conscious that, wait, this is my life, and I do get to feel the way I want to feel. Um, how you feel matters. The second point is it's your life, and how you feel matters. I want you to feel good, or at least have some sense of agency in the chaos that might be around you. And no one can make me feel any certain way without my permission. So I share that with you. The tough talk that my coach gave to me, which was, why are you giving all your energy away? It's like, well, I love I care about people, right? And I know that all of you in attendance today, you care about people. But when we feel really off and we need to ground, this this is where we're at. Wait, no one's making me feel a certain way, because I get to choose, and I can step back and ground myself. And there is a lot of suffering, and I didn't create it all, and I can't fix it all. So getting that into that realistic point. But remember, no one can make you feel a certain way without your permission. We are often allowing it, allowing our energy and our feelings to be hijacked. And with that, of course, I love to just end with this quote that seemed appropriate, so I didn't change it, is again reflecting on the deeper powers that we can dig into when we have those challenging moments. Life is very much not about avoiding hardship. It's about how we operate in relation to hardship, in relation to the world. And that is really where we find those deep powers. Is like, this is the great aspect of life. It's not avoiding any hardship. It's kind of walking through it and learning from it and growing. The best growth actually happens through difficulty. And I hope that these skills are useful. I hope that this becomes a toolkit of sorts for you in grounding your energy and protecting yourselves from and ensuring that you can feel good and engaged in the things that you're doing. So if anyone has any questions or comments, things that you would like to share, examples, you may have been familiar with some of these things. You may be practicing some of these exercises.
And we have a small enough group of folks, but if you'd like to
Yeah.
take yourself off mute and share any feedback with Kim.
Oh, Crystal, I think I see a hand. Would love
Yep.
to have you share.
Yeah, Crystal, feel free to take yourself off mute. You can share feedback with Kim.
Oh, maybe she can't.
Maybe she can't. Let's see.
Yeah. Breathing. Thank you, Vicky. Yes, centering yourself with the breathing. It's so simple. It's right there for us, right? It's at the ready. It's almost too simple. Our brains are actually so complex that it doesn't, it just doesn't seem like that would do as much as it can do.
Can you hear me now? It's
Oh,
Crystal.
yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
perfect.
All right. So it just asked me, do you want to be off mute? All right. So what I have used and learned in the past from a couple of different 12-step programs was the acronym HALT,
Oh,
HALT. And so when you're in a storm, stop, halt. Are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? And which of those things can you modify to be more positive to help slow the storm, calm the storm, or eliminate it?
that is a great technique, and thank you for sharing that. Um,
I'll
you know,
put it in the chat.
yeah, put that in the chat, because then people will be like, what was the H again? Right? So it's like, am I hungry? Am I angry?
I know
No.
many people who put it on their mirror in the morning or the refrigerator.
I have a husband who reminds me, because he knows when I get hungry and he calls me hangry. I get hangry.
Angry. Yep. Oh, I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. But thank you for sharing that. That's a great grounding one too. It's like, that's the pause. Because that would, all of those things influence the way we feel and maybe the way we take our next action or interaction. Anyone else too? Or Crystal, if there's anything more?
That's it from me. I'm just trying to figure out how to silent myself. That's all right. I'll be quiet.
That's good. Yeah, no problems. You don't have to mute. Thank you. Yeah, there's so much more. And usually when we're, overwhelmed, it's the last thing we think of are these things. So keeping them handy in some way helps. When our minds are just doing too much of the wandering into, the worrisome territory. And there's a lot to worry about, right? It's not that it's unfounded. The brain's making up stories, but it's based on good intel. It's just it can make us feel really rotten, and it can be all the switches on all at once. We can't, we know we blow fuses when that happens. That's where it's important to ground.
And I did mention in the chat, we'll be sending the evaluation, but I'll also send the slides that Kim shared today too. So all the resources and methods that she talked about today, you'll have as a resource.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, sticky note reminder to breathe. Yeah, I hold my breath a lot. And I know that some of my friends, I don't have a smartwatch, but like even the reminder that some people have on their watches periodically that remind them to breathe and just for a few moments, but it's right there at our disposal. And there's a lot of fun ones too. There's many more. So even if you were to Google, there's like 871. I might be saying that wrong, but there's like a whole bunch of different breathing types of techniques that people can experiment with and have fun with. Well, if that's all,
All
I
right.
thank you all for
Yeah,
showing up, and I hope the slides are useful, and I appreciate everyone who might be watching this after the recording.
absolutely. Yes. So I will send an email as soon as the recording is available for everyone. And again, the email will go out later today with the evaluation link and the slides. And I'll probably send another reminder for the evaluation in another week. And then hopefully everything will be ready to go. But we do thank everyone. I know that the last couple of weeks of December tend to be a little crazy. So we really appreciate your time today and being able to sit on today's sessions. Hope you found the information really helpful and techniques you'll be able to use. And wishing you all a wonderful holiday season.
Yes, happy holidays, everyone. Wishing you a peaceful holiday. Enjoy. Thank you. Oh,